Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We are going to wait for a few more folks to join us. If you see the prompt up here on the screen, we would love to orient ourselves a little bit to who's in the Zoom room today. Frustratingly, we won't be able to get to know all of you intimately, but a couple of these details would be lovely for us to know about you. So as it says up here, if you can just chat everyone, if you're comfortable, your name, if you are a prospective parent or student, your hometown or wherever you're Zooming in from today. And if you know what semester you or your daughter is interested in, and it's totally okay if you don't know. And just, Zoom protocol, which we're all probably comfortable with at this point, but maybe you're not a Zoomer. Just mute yourself, and it's totally up to you to keep your video on or off. I personally love to see all your faces, but no pressure there. If you've got other life things going on and you're just tuning in while you cook dinner or whatever it is. We've got up here on the screen some snippets from Drew's semester this fall, one of our alumna, Claire, who is, Drew, do you know what year she is? 16, 17, junior?
Yes, she's a junior.
A junior, with a passion for cinematography, put together this beautiful video of her semester, and we're excited to be able to share it with you all tonight. All right. As you continue to put some information about yourselves in the chat, we'll get started to respect your time. We aim to keep this session efficient and hopefully engaging and conversational. Drew and I will move through a PowerPoint speaking to you some of the nuts and bolts of our programs. I'll open it up to Drew for a little spotlight, and then the floor is yours to ask us any questions. So without further ado, I will introduce myself. My name is Maddie Johnson, for those of you who I have yet to interact with. Some of you I have yet to meet, but I've been emailing with, so exciting to put faces to those names. I was a teacher with the traveling school. I taught literature and global studies for both semesters in 2019 when we were in South America and Southern Africa. And when I got back from Cape Town, I hopped into my current office role, being the marketing and recruiting coordinator, which I do remotely from my home in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So I'm surrounded by a lot of snow right now, and Drew is actually in Jackson as well right now. So over to you, Drew.
Hi, everyone. My name is Drew Higgins. I was a traveling school teacher this past fall on TTS 36. Like Maddie, I taught literature and global studies, and I've now transitioned into an admissions role with TTS. So I'm really excited to help Maddie share about our upcoming semesters, and thank you all for being here.
So as I said, we will hopefully zoom through this PowerPoint that I've tried to not make too boring, but I know PowerPoints can get a little dry, so we'll try to mix it up. And then, as I said, ask Drew some questions and then turn it over to you. If you have any questions come up while we're moving through the PowerPoint, feel free to chat them to me or Drew personally in the chat, or to everyone if you don't mind other folks seeing them. If we can organically integrate answers into our PowerPoint, we will do so. Otherwise, we'll tackle them during the Q&A. So I wanted to start out by just sharing a little bit about why we do the work that we do, and especially for me and Drew as educators, why quotes like this and philosophies like this really matter to us. So Dr. Rita Pearson, who has been an educator for over 40 years, shared during her TED Talk this thought that it would be so powerful if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, kids who were not afraid to think big, and who had a champion in their teachers. Every child, she says, deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they can be the best that they possibly can be. We like to think about this as our bread and butter at the traveling school. We have a 4-to-1 student to teacher ratio. We as teachers are traveling alongside our students on a daily basis. We get 4 lovely days off in our 4 months teaching, and that is kind of the magic of what we do. We are not there as just teachers. We are there to see these students as humans and be humans alongside them. Our mission at the traveling school is to amplify girls' voices through transformative education to ignite positive change. We do truly envision a world where strong, compassionate leaders can ignite this positive change on local and global scales, and do so with confidence and empowerment in their voices and their roles in society. So what does this look like in action? We typically have anywhere from 10 to 16 girls on our programs. We do also take folks that identify as non-binary. We are on a 15-week journey, and while we are traveling from Montana down to Arizona, or in the spring, Arizona up to Montana, we'll be tackling 5 place-based courses. We will have just 4 teachers who play mentor and nurse and chef across their 15 weeks teaching. We all are living out of a backpack, sleeping in tents and on riverbanks and in small town hostels. We as teachers have technology, so rest assured we will be able to get in touch with you. And one of the most beautiful parts about our semesters is that the girls will not have their technology. So they are still tackling big analytical essays and exams. That said, they are handwriting all of those things. They're often, as you can see up here on the screen, they're often taking tests or learning lessons just through our little travel whiteboards. And we think that that is one of the coolest parts about the program, knowing how many of these students have never existed in a world without being not just tied to their phones, but being a little bit addicted to their phones and not knowing what reality looks like without them. Of course, we have infinite classrooms to explore as well. That is just the nature of us not having a campus and instead moving from one state to the next, which is why we think of ourselves as a verb. When you are on a semester with us, you are constantly redefining your idea of a classroom, your idea of classmates, your idea of teachers, and your idea of home. We hope that across your semester, you are constantly connecting to new places with a critical eye and an open mind. You're connecting with locals, you're centering their stories, and you're constantly reconstructing your perspective of the world and the places that you're going to. When you return home, students report the increase in confidence, the increase in leadership, and the increased passion to ignite positive change in their community, both at school and on larger scales. So your home can look like a lot of different things. It can be desert canyons, maybe dorm style hotels, hostels, school campuses, sometimes backcountry cabins, rural campsites or rural towns, occasionally homestays, depending on our future with the pandemic, national parks, and grassy or sandy riverbanks. I'll turn it over to Drew to speak a little bit more about what classes you're going to be tackling and where you are going to be tackling them.
Thanks, Maddie. So here are our 5 focus states for our Western US semester. And we run our programming with a fairly fixed itinerary, but there's always opportunity to flex each semester depending on what's happening regionally or what students and teachers are excited about. So for example, this fall, we also briefly dipped into New Mexico to see a cultural site that had been recommended to us. Our fall semester starts in Montana and weaves its way down to Arizona, roughly going border to border, and then we reverse that route in the spring. So we're capitalizing on the warmer weather in the north and the south, depending on the season. And then as we travel, every student takes our 5 core courses that you see here. These courses are uniquely designed to push our students academically, to push them to think critically about the places through which we're traveling. So for example, if we're in Southern Utah in Bears Ears National Monument, in science class, you're going to be learning about the flash floods that go through the canyons there and how those ecologically shape those canyons. And in history class, you're going to be learning about the ancient Puebloan people who once called those canyons home. And maybe like we did this fall, we'll have a local journalist and activist come speak with us about reporting on environmental issues in the region. So you're doing all that in a week, and you're discussing and you're reflecting, you're writing, you're completing assignments. So it's fast paced, it's very lively and engaging. And then our final course here, PE and independent life skills, we're keeping our bodies active. We're learning the skills needed to be successful travelers, community members, and ultimately leaders. And then if there's a course that you need to take that isn't listed here, we can set that up as an independent study. Or if we have a number of students who are looking to take Algebra 2 or a pre-calculus course, we can offer a math class as well. So just speak with us about your individual academic needs.
Thanks, Drew. So at the traveling school, we like to bring at least one of our 4 pillars, ideally all of our 4 pillars, to life in some form every day. So while there's no such thing as a typical day, which Drew will get into a little bit later, we do build our itinerary to not only tackle 5 rigorous courses and get all of your credits and intimately explore the places through which we pass, but we are also meeting with local conservationists and authors and guides, like Drew was saying. You'll be trekking across 2.8 billion year old metamorphic rock while you're in Grand Teton National Park. You will be rafting through canyons with controversial water rights and discussing them, maybe with your guide who's a local, and living out of a backpack and sleeping in tents and cabins and dorms alongside just 15 other girls who are also committed to living passionately with an open mind and adventurous spirit. So our 4 pillars at TTS are cultural immersion, place-based academics, outdoor leadership, and intimate community. And all of these things, again, come to form in some form every day or across definitely weeks with us.
So I think what's hardest to convey before you live it is the magic that we get to experience every day at the traveling school. And it's that indescribable magic that really comes from our students. So each of them is remarkable in their own way and brings something special to their semester community. Each student brings their own passions, curiosity, strengths, and stretch areas. They connect with each other deeply through conversations on car rides and jokes and silly skits and stories they swap as they're falling asleep in their sleeping bags at night. During the semester, our students collaborate with each other. They problem solve, they discuss big consequential issues in their lives and beyond themselves. And as teachers, we just kind of create the container for that magic. We try to throw in all the right ingredients, but it's really our students who bake the cake, so to speak, and make it come to life. So ultimately, every student in some way comes out changed, and that's why we call it a transformative experience. And I think both Maddie and I have seen that with our own eyes. Our students are already impressive when they arrive on day 1, and they grow to be even more outstanding by day 100 because they're more confident, they're more resilient, they're more independent, and they have this clearer vision of who they are and the kind of change they want to make. And they're leaving sometimes with lifelong friendships and connections. So I think a past student better describes this than I can. So this is from Carly Lloyd. And she said, I feel like the traveling school didn't change who I was, but helped me become closer to who I want to be and transformed the way I move through the world. The traveling school left me feeling more like myself than ever, more confident and more empowered and more curious. My advice to you as prospective students is to not be afraid to take this leap. Don't put limits on what you think your next school year could look like. We need people who are more compassionate, thoughtful, and strong to lead the shift towards a better future.
Love that. Thanks for sharing, Drew. I would love to now center Drew, who again is coming off of a 105-day semester with us this past fall. I will stop sharing my screen for a moment. We'll hop back into it after this quick interview. But yeah, Drew, I would love to just have you help bring this semester to life for all of these folks. Starting off with just sharing what makes traveling school teachers unique. what did you find in your mentorship relationships and also in your more formal classroom relationships with your 11 students this fall?
Definitely. I think this is something that students consistently talk about, is how different their traveling school teachers are from any other teacher that they've had in their lives. Mostly because TTS teachers really value forging strong mentorship relationships with students. Each student has a mentor teacher who they meet formally with each week, but also because we're living and learning alongside them, there are so many opportunities for informal check-ins and touching base. But TTS teachers really put in that effort and make sure that each student is feeling supported and seen in the ways that are important to them. Additionally, I think that TTS teachers bring a lot of interesting life experience and expertise both in education and in other fields too. Like, to speak about my teaching team this fall and the 3 other teachers I taught with, one of the other teachers had spent 2 years teaching in Guatemala, and another had spent years teaching at public charter schools. And I've taught on glaciers in Alaska. And I think that creates this like out of the box richness, so that students feel like they're learning from people who are engaged and worldly and have something insightful to offer them, like both in and out of the classroom. Hey, Maddie, I think you're muted.
Classic Zoom. I was just saying, I forgot that you taught in Alaska on glaciers, and I think that just illuminates, what diversity our teachers bring and what experiences they have coming to us, both formal and more informal or experiential. But all together as one of the people on the team looking for our faculty teams to really shine. We are looking really seriously at how these 4 people are going to come together and complement each other's experiences, and also help each other grow, so that across all 4 of the teachers, every student has someone that they can really connect with, be mentored by, learn from, grow with, and be challenged by. So thank you. Drew, can you explain a little bit more about what a typical day looks like? And zooming into our Western US semester with some specifics and stories. I will add, for context, some of you might know our history, but we were founded in 2003 with our mission that still stands today, being applied to more abroad travel. We did pivot away from our we've been to Central America, New Zealand, South America, Southern Africa in the past 17 years now that we've been in operation. Because of the pandemic, we realized that the silver lining was we have yet to explore our own backyard. And that's actually so exciting to us. Our office is based in Bozeman, Montana. So many of our partners and friends and favorite places to recreate are in the West. So this being our first semester to explore that was so exciting. And Drew, I'd love to hear you speak to what a typical day looked like in the West and what were some of those magical places that we are able to bring students to for the first time in our 17 years in existence.
Yeah, definitely, Maddie. And I think this is a question that we get a lot because it's really hard to envision what a traveling school semester day looks like before you live it. And so I think broadly speaking, there are a couple of different types of days that we have. So there are travel days where we're primarily on the move, changing our course locations, and we move between those locations in 15 passenger vans. And then we have academic days where we're really focusing on our coursework, which often includes hands-on outdoor activities, speakers, et cetera. But these days prioritize having most, if not all, our academic courses. There are outdoor recreation days where you might be rafting or backpacking or canoeing, and academics might look like 1 to 2 classes on the trail, or for our 2-week canoe trip on the Missouri River in Montana, we had classes while floating in canoes on the river. And we would listen to TED Talks while we floated down the Missouri River and then have discussions. And then we have days that are kind of like a combo of each of those, where maybe we have classes in the morning and then we're on a hike or visiting a museum, or we're packing up and moving on to our next spot. A few other highlights, like one day that we were in Yellowstone, we woke up really early in the morning to go wolf watching. And so right at dawn, we're like looking through scopes, seeing wolves. And then we had someone from the Yellowstone Wolf Project speak with us about the history of wolf reintroduction. And that lasted till about noon. And then we went back to the cabin that we were staying in right outside the park. And we had some classes in the afternoon before we had a little PE yoga class. Then we prepped dinner and had study hall in the evening before lights out at 10 p.m. So that sticks out as a really fun day, memorable day to me. And then thinking about also when we were in Arizona towards the end of the semester, spending the morning teaching a class at the border wall in Nogales, Arizona, at the US-Mexico border, and learning about immigration reform. Those were some really memorable moments where we were making that curriculum come to life. And then also, at the end of that, then we went back to our camp and we had some like down study time before, having our regular meal, study hall, etc. So I think probably what's new for many students is that we don't have weekends, and no day is really like the one before it. Every day is different, even as we do give structure to our days, which requires adaptability and also makes it really fun.
Thanks so much, Drew. Yeah, and I'll add the flexibility and adaptability that the students and teachers alike are constantly putting into practice while they're with the traveling school are some of the best characteristics that they come out of the semester having so much more deeply developed. And it's such a life skill that, I wish I had more deeply developed as a high schooler. I will also say that because we are on the move, we are also, by nature flexible. If we meet someone who is an incredible, has an incredible wealth of knowledge about a certain topic, we might invite them to dinner. We might ask them to provide a guest lecture during our literature class if they are knowledgeable about the topics that we're already covering in that class. And I think that just makes a lot of what we do really, really, really magical. My last caveat kind of with what Drew is saying is that these days are a mixture of challenging and fun. And if you are someone who has never done any of these things before, embrace the challenge of that. Don't hear 14 days of canoeing or a long trek or sleeping in tents and quiver and get nervous and think that you'll be alone in having these experiences for the first time. Not only can I assure you that no one in high school has done a 105-day stretch living out of a backpack and tackling some really rigorous courses and living alongside such a small community, but so many of our students are not coming in having ever backpacked or rock climbed or whitewater raft. And the newness of that is really beautiful. And the mentorship that exists on a peer-to-peer level, where if you have a skill set and you're confident in sharing that with one of your classmates, you can develop some more leadership skills in supporting them in learning more about it. So with that, I know that a lot of students and families can get caught up in this idea of what they are missing if they go on a traveling school semester. What AP courses might they not be able to take? What sports seasons might they be missing out on? What prom might they be missing out on, or homecoming, or fun school dance or event? We will not pretend to be able to completely mimic any of those experiences. And I think that the beauty in what we offer is that you will come back with such an incredibly unique experience. You won't regret it. But with that, I wanted Drew to speak a little bit to, covering some of those concerns and sharing what you've observed in students who were applying to colleges. What did that look like while they were on the move? What did an independent study look like while they were on the move? What did, filling out certain applications look like? Or what ways did you fill the gaps with things like proms or homecomings that students might have been missing. And overall, what are the takeaways that mattered instead of focusing on what folks were missing?
Yeah, totally. I think as far as college goes, there's lots of high school students who've taken AP history, and there are not so many high school students who have spent 4 months doing school on the road. And so I think this experience really helps you stand out as an applicant from that external sense. And then internally, it also really helps students just kind of figure out who they are and what they want out of their future. Which is important clarity in the college process. And I can speak to this fall, we had 3 high school seniors who were going through that college process with us. And I'll be honest that that does take a level of diligence and a level of additional effort, right, on top of doing the whole semester. But the plus sides of that is you've got a lot of amazing anecdotes that you can write about for your essays. And you've got, right, these 4 teachers who are willing to mentor you through that process and can literally sit beside you and help you with those applications and can write you recommendations and so forth. So I think that is really doable. And I would say same for independent studies is yes, you have to be on it and you have to be taking that initiative, but you do have those support systems as well to lean on because we're such a small community intentionally. So I think it's really normal before coming to TTS or applying to worry about all the things you're going to miss. But generally speaking, what I hear from students after the fact at the end of their semester is that they don't really remember all those worries or what they missed. They remember all the things that they gained. And that could be friends or the adventure of it or experiences or how they grew as a student, how school suddenly became really exciting to them. And right now with COVID, school looks different for just about everyone. And I think this is an opportunity for school to look different in a really positive way. So I would say, yeah, you miss some things, right? Of course, you're leaving, but you gain so much more.
Drew, before we transition over to a larger group Q&A, and again, if you haven't already, definitely pop some questions into the chat that we'll be sure to get to. But I was just curious if you can speak to either one specific student or collectively your group. What do you feel like were the biggest evolutions that you saw from start of the semester to end?
That's such a good question. I think I'm thinking about like 1 or 2 students in particular who, I was teaching 2 very discussion-based courses who at the beginning of the semester would go through, like, I would say first day, an entire class and not say a word, and just be really nervous about speaking, would initially kind of struggle to track the conversation or think about like, how do I engage in this academic dialogue? And one of them was Israeli, and she was also participating in a non-native language. And so some additional layers there. And thinking about those students at the end of the semester, they're just like confidence and willingness to dive into those conversations and share their opinions and perspectives. And I think some of that comes with just like the comfort of the community and getting to know each other better, but also their academic learning on how to like participate in an upper level kind of discussion seminar, and just their own belief in themselves, honestly, through a lot of like intentional coaching and feedback and effort on their part in that academic mentorship. So that was super fun to just see the evolution from like quiet to totally loquacious.
Quiet to loquacious. Great use of that word. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen briefly again, just to go over some semester nuts and bolts here. So let me make this nice and big for you. So we operate with a rolling admissions system. If you are interested in applying for the fall 22 or spring 23 semesters, we encourage you to get your application in by February 15th, especially if you are interested in applying for a need-based scholarship, which we certainly offer. We are need blind in terms of scholarship applications and what folks we admit. We will get a little bit of, or we'll need a little bit of time to review all of the scholarship applications. So your acceptance might not always come on the exact same day as your scholarship award. If you are interested in applying for financial support, start that conversation with us. I can help direct you to the right folks in our office. And in the meantime, hop on our website. Under the admissions tab, you can find more information on affordability and what applications for scholarship look like. Also, send us an email if you've got any questions. Give us a call as well. I can share our phone number with you in a moment in the chat. And if you haven't already, and if you do have social media, most updates on a daily basis come through our Instagram account. So give us a follow and see some more pictures and stories of what a semester with us looks like. So thanks so much for listening to us talk so much. We are now going to turn it over to you all. I know I've got a few questions that have been coming in directly to me. If you haven't had a moment yet to type in a question, feel free to do so, remembering that we've got context from 2 faculty and also now 2 folks that have admissions roles in the office. And in the meantime, you can also take in some more of these scenes from this most recent fall semester. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can all see each other again. One of the first questions that I got was, is this for just juniors or seniors? We accept anyone who is 15 to 18 years old at the start of semester. So our fall semester, I think, is an August 26th start date, and spring is February 5th. So you just have to be 15 or 18 by the time that rolls around. We do differentiate assessments and general approaches to lesson plans to accommodate all types of learners. And I can say from my personal experience, the age is not always the biggest influential factor in what experiences folks have academically. So generally, we just like to approach our grading and assessment holistically. Some girls might have never written an analytical essay before, or a 5-paragraph essay, or written one where they have to come up with their own thesis. So they might get a different scaffolding leading up to their final project than someone who's a senior and has written 15 of those. Another question that came in was, what does communication with family look like? A great question. 15 weeks would be a really long time for you to completely unplug from family conversations. So we do like to integrate a phone call with family every 14 days is our goal. It's typically anywhere from 10 to 14, depending on where you're at. Obviously, if day 14 lands when you're on the Missouri Breaks River, that would be challenging for our teachers to coordinate. That can look like a normal cell phone call. All of our teachers, again, do have their cell phones with us. It might look like a FaceTime or a Zoom. And if your parents are separated or divorced, we can also accommodate 2 separate phone calls for those different family members. What we will not accommodate, though, is like, oh, Lucy's going to have a call with her boyfriend tonight, her grandma in another hour, and her aunt tomorrow. That's a little bit more challenging. And yeah, we do try to accommodate certain things, but we also have limited time and limited Wi-Fi and limited service and limited cell phones. So we try to make it as fair and equitable as possible. Let's see. 2023 spring semester. This is a great question. So as I said, starting now 17 years ago, we were founded by Genefrey Hartman, who really just had this dream of a school that traveled and empowered girls. It redefined what teachers were, it redefined what classrooms looked like, and her vision was not tied to one destination. It was tied to this idea of movement. So, like I said, across 17 years, we've now taken semesters to New Zealand, Central America, South America, Southern Africa. And this year, Western US, we will stick to Western US for at least next year. When borders open, we feel like we can confidently be ethical travelers abroad again. We will certainly try to go back to Africa and South America, with the goal of that starting in fall of 2023. So fall 22, spring 23, we have committed to being stateside. And with that, we have gotten more international applicants, I'll say, so it's not domestic for everyone. And I'll also just plug that just like we've been really enjoying exploring your own backyard through the itinerary we've been building and the curriculum we've been writing, we are also really excited by the stories of folks who have lived in the US their entire lives, even states in the Western US their entire lives, and commented on just how much they have learned about this country, and the importance of interrogating your own country before you have some of these big critical conversations about another country. So big goals of reconnecting with our abroad partners, and for now, excited to call our home our semester's home. Maybe this one can be tackled by Drew, just based on your experience, but where do girls come from? And can you kind of describe the average girl? Thinking maybe academically, socially, what passions they have, and yeah, where they're coming from.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't think there's one average. I think all of our students are really unique and different, but they're united by their desire to be here, which is really cool based on a different school, right? Like other students going to school can feel like a chore, a place that they're forced to go, unfortunately. And our students at the traveling school, they all said yes to this experience, and many of them found it on their own, worked with their schools to make it possible, fundraised to make it possible. So these are initiative-taking go-getters who are seeking something really different for themselves and are interested in challenging themselves and experiencing the growth that comes with that. But within some of those common characteristics, I would say they're all really different. And just geographically speaking, we didn't have any students from the same school, town, or state. We had 11 high school girls from 10 different US states and one international student from Israel this past fall. And so those states included Washington State, Maine, Mississippi, Wisconsin, truly all over, and both like rural, suburban, urban. So bringing some really just different perspectives based on their life experiences.
Thanks, Drew. This next one I might also ping over to you. I can add context, but I think it's funny and one that a lot of our students get surprised by. How hard are our classes?
Hard is very subjective. I think they're rigorous, and it totally depends on where you're coming from and what you're used to. In terms of academics, I would say everyone is pushed in some way. And we work really hard to, as Maddie spoke to, like differentiate with students based on where they're at academically. I would say what I heard from students this fall was they read more on a traveling school semester than they had ever read in their whole lives. And for the first time in many of their lives, like school was exciting to them, and they felt invigorated by what they were learning and like it was actually meaningful and impactful. So coming with that rigor is, I think students are willing to meet the challenge of that rigor because they hopefully and ideally feel really well supported by our teachers. They have the tools that they need to do that. and because they're actually engaged in what they're learning about.
And I'll just add some examples of assignments. Definitely, like Drew said, a lot more reading based, more discussion based, more project based. That said, we do still have, science and history courses where an expectation from the teacher could very well be that you are coming to class and you might have a pop quiz on some dates that she asked you memorize, or some names of figures that she thinks are important for you to understand. That said, we do not pride ourselves on regurgitating information, strictly memorizing, even an algebra 2 class, a pre-algebra class, a history class where there's a lot of dates, a lot of names. Trust me, it makes me queasy to think of school where the rigor means just the AP chemistry style rigor of how late can I stay up and how much can I squeeze into my brain to jot down tomorrow and then inevitably forget in a few weeks. Our kind of rigor is, yeah, you very well might be staying up late fine-tuning your thesis for a history essay or a literature project. You will have the support of your teachers and your classmates in doing that kind of work. And it is, yeah, rigorous because the margin notes are not just you got this date wrong, but tell me more about that. Tell me more about the roots that might have contributed to this observation that you've made. Share more explicitly what emotion you had and unpack why that emotion might have come up. Can you use a stronger adjective to describe that emotion? Because the word interesting is quite vague, right? So I think a lot of students that are especially coming from competitive private schools, they come in on our classes being harder in ways that they were not expecting, and more meaningful, more relevant, covering things that they actually care about and will continue to care about when they get back home. This is a great question. How do people transfer knowledge, particularly in math and science, when returning to their regular high school if you travel the first semester of the year? Yeah, I think this one is kind of on par with what Drew was expressing. Like, if you're worried about missing a certain class or getting behind, we do, for something like math, we do follow Common Core standards. So if you are in our semester 1 of Algebra 2 and you're hopping back into spring semester of Algebra 2, you should be lining up pretty exactly with that curriculum. Science might be a little bit different. So our course is honors natural science. It is not AP chemistry. It is not AP physics. We do that intentionally. We want our courses to be place-based, and we're well aware that AP physics can be made place-based, and that wouldn't bring about the conversations that we're excited to be having on our semester about more of the geology, the water rights, the public land use, et cetera. So science is something, if you are enrolled in an AP class and you want to take that test in May and feel really prepared, it is going to take a little bit more effort on your end to perhaps enroll in an online school before you join us, perhaps do some independent study work while you're on semester with us. We cannot promise that we will have a teacher who is ready to teach AP chemistry. That said, we can have someone support you in facilitating that hour every few days for you to do some of that work and help you move through that curriculum. We do have partner organizations that we've worked with a lot in the past, so we're happy to pass along some of those names. And then if you are more committed to the idea of staying present with our curriculum and our experiences, you don't want to be pulled out of free time to do some extra work, we will definitely support you in figuring out ways to find a summer program, squeeze some big concepts into the couple months that you'll have between fall and spring semester. And overall, I think the thesis is just that folks feel well supported transitioning back to their next semester at home. And the biggest thing we'll ask during the application period is just that you have your guidance counselor fill out a credit transfer form to ensure we know your school will accept the credits that we are giving you. And if there's any red flags with, you're not going to graduate unless you get this thing and you're expecting to graduate and then you come home and you get a different message, we won't let that happen. We'll work with your school to be on the same page. Okay, I am mindful of time creeping in at 5:45 out here in Wyoming. If you have any more questions, you can sneak them in the chat now. We can stay on for a little bit longer. Otherwise, again, our email is info@travelingschool.com. I'll pop in my personal email down here to everyone too. mjohnson@travelingschool.com. Feel free to ping me with any questions, comments, concerns, application, curiosities. If you hop onto our website, I know that the hamburger style menu can be a bit hard to navigate sometimes, but under the admissions bar, you should be able to find most things. Affordability, again, start that conversation with us. Head of school, Jennifer Royal, will give you a call to discuss more specifics there. Itinerary credit stuff, give Anj Thomas a call, our fearless academic dean. She's got the big brain for, basically, I think she's been in this role for like 8 to 10 years. So she's seen it all with the credit transfer world. And our biggest message to you all is we are here to support you. We are here to root for you. We're here to help you grow. And we would really love for you to apply, because both Drew and I have seen the magic that comes out of a semester and the chill inducing growth. So we would love for you to join us. And thank you all so much for spending 45 minutes of your Wednesday evening with us. And we look forward to getting some inquiries through our inboxes in the next few weeks. February 15th, don't forget it. Thank you all. Drew, any final words of wisdom as they roll away?
Just gratitude for showing up and listening to us blab away. So thank you.